Black children and Latino children are, and especially boys, are disciplined at much higher rates than white children for the same behavior. So if you have a black child and a white child engaging in the same type of behavior, the black child is much more likely to get a suspension from school than the white child. In Ohio statewide, black children are 5 times more likely to be suspended out of school than white children for engaging in the same types of behavior. I think it has something to do with the policies and practices in schools, but it also has a lot to do with our overall racism in our society, in our culture, in our communities. And that's a really hard thing for people to hear and talk about. But I think it's something we really need to talk about. I think that black boys are disproportionately disciplined in school and disciplined more harshly than other children because we have a stereotype of black boys as criminals. We view them as criminals, and we're more likely to see minor misbehavior from them as potentially criminal behavior.
Even if a police officer arrests someone, once they bring it to the prosecutor can decide to drop the case at that point or go forward with the case. And they also have an incredible amount of discretion in terms of what they charge. A person arrested for carrying a certain amount of drugs could be charged with a misdemeanor possession or a felony possession with intent to distribute, and that decision is totally up to the prosecutor. And I do think that it's very possible that a prosecutor will see a white kid who's from a wealthy background who got stopped with some drugs and say, wow, there before the grace of God go I. I remember when I was a kid and I did a few drugs, and but look, I turned out fine. I want to give that kid a break. And look at the black kid and just not feel that empathy. Not consciously, but subconsciously.
There is significant racial discrimination in our society, and not surprisingly throughout the criminal justice system. And both at who is arrested, who is prosecuted, who is convicted, who is sentenced, and how long we keep them incarcerated. That is fundamentally unjust. It's fundamentally unfair, the significant racial disparity that happens. I think it's important for people to know or to think about that if the current situation we have in this country regarding mass incarceration, if it disproportionately impacted white communities the way it does African American communities or Hispanic communities, we would not have mass incarceration. And that is troubling, and that should be troubling to me, and it should be troubling to everyone, that we really have allowed this to go on for generations, and it has done untold damage.
It is disparate. As we said here today, 53% of our inmate population are Caucasian, 44% are African American, and 3 are other. Certainly not representative of this state. And if you look throughout the criminal justice system, you see that disparity just permeate through the system.
Our criminal justice system is racist. Intentionally so, I can't say that, but I don't think it matters. I think that's where we lose focus. Everybody says, well, the prosecutor's not racist, or the police aren't racist, and the judge wasn't racist, and the jury wasn't racist, and I'm not saying any of them are secretly at night at home members of the Klan or members of the John Birch Society or some other extremist, racially separatist group. I'm not. But statistically, we know our system is deeply, deeply racist. Our system results in huge disparities against people of color. We put 1 in 12 adult black men in prison in this country. I want you to think about what that does to a community, a neighborhood, when you pull 1 out of 12 men out of that neighborhood. Whites, it's above 1 out of 100, well above 1 out of 100. I want to say 112, 120, somewhere in that range. That's not a huge difference if 1 out of 100 is pulled. 1 out of 12, that distinctly changes the culture you're living in.
The drug war could have been fought in middle-class suburbia. But the drug war was not fought in middle-class suburbia. The drug war was constructed and enacted in a way that impacted neighborhoods of African American and working class and poverty concentration, because that's where street level crime associated with drug sales what led to the ease with which police officers could then respond and lock up individuals, and then those individuals are simply replaced. But the blind eyes are turned to drug sales, for example, at suburban high schools. So the nature of the drug war could have been fought through the lens of suburban living rooms and suburban high schools. That would have if that had been the case, that would have fundamentally changed within the American consciousness and the American psyche how we understand what the drug war is and what its intended or desired outcomes could be. And it could have been about raising questions that feel ethereal, but in my view should not be. They're not. They may be ethereal or philosophical, but they're also real questions. What are the reasons that the United States is, if not one of the primary drug markets in the world? What are we doing as a nation state and society that is leading individuals to seek numbing themselves and distancing themselves from the truths of their lives? Let's raise that question and the set of institutional relationships and the set of individual, familial, and communal responsibilities that sets in motion, and address those. That's a fundamental shift from, yes, it's that drug, it's that substance, it's those bad people, let's lock them up and put them away.